just your average everyday trucker, keeping it real. I'm your host, Chris Blodgett, and you're listening to Real Talk Tuesday.
This week's topic is going to be spooky stories and videos late at night. Yay or nay? This is episode 144. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, appreciate you being here. The inspiration for this week's topic, and a lot of times when I'm getting ready to record, the topic or the new Real Talk Tuesday episode each week, there's a lot of times I sit here and I go, what do I talk about this week? And, because sometimes there's a couple of different options. There's a few different things I'm thinking about. I'm like, should I talk about this? Should I talk about that? Like, I debated on kind of for the topic this week being, do you roll over and take it? And the inspiration for that one is kind of the legal battle that's kind of unfolding with the what I like to refer to as a sperm donor, the bio dad of my grandson that hasn't really been that big of a father figure in my grandson's life, and within the past 2 months we actually got approved to, for a 4-bedroom rental house out there east of Kansas City, Missouri, and we're in a 3-bedroom apartment right now, and so it's definitely a step up. It's got it's got more room for everybody, and it's near quite a bit of other family there, versus like here we don't have any family close by. The only technical family we have, especially for Salix, is the other household, the other grandparents, the dad and his wife, but so we made the choice. We went ahead and they're like, hey, go ahead and apply, and of course I had to pay a pretty hefty deposit and whatnot, but and then we ended up getting approved, and we tried to give the other. We did what we thought would be the right thing. We actually tried to give the other household um, basically a very big notice on when we're moving. Like, hey, it's 2 months out. Here's what's going on. Blah blah blah. And give them that courtesy. And then we got my daughter got served court papers on the 7th. And we're like three weeks out of out from getting officially moving and whatnot. We've already got like the moving truck schedule and all that fun stuff. I mean, everything's already, like, all the ducks are already, like, all the stuff's already in place, and we're just basically we're counting down the weeks. But early last week, somebody tried to serve my daughter at work, but of course she wasn't there. Like, her boss kind of let her know. And of course, my daughter kind of told us about it. She said, yeah, somebody was here, but my boss, kind of sent him away because I wasn't here, and they looked like they were trying to serve paperwork. I hope it's not that. I wonder if it's the other household trying to pull some crap or whatever. And I'm like, well, do you have any debts or whatever? So, and then of course, like, I think Wednesday or so, they tried to. They were here at the apartment, and I was trying to sleep. And I remember my youngest waking me up and saying, "There's somebody cop knocking on the front door." They're just like banging on the door really hard. And I was like, well, do you know who it is? Like, can you see anything? Like, no, I can't. There's just a white car out there. I can't see anybody. I had only had like 3.5 hours of sleep at that point. And I'm thinking, like, all right, well, like, the other household hasn't said anything. Like, we kind of been doing shared custody since, a little bit like a verbal arrangement since my daughter moved back after she was gone for a year. And, we had a little arrangement in place. They pick them up from school a couple days a week. They have them for a couple hours, and they have them for overnight on Friday, and then bring them back like late Saturday. But it's pretty toxic situation. Just, they're not exactly easy to deal with, and so it's been fun. And it's like, then of course we've got the stress of everyday life, stress of either not getting loads at work, or my wife or my oldest having stress about dealing with stuff at their jobs. And we kind of wanted to go closer to family anyway, so it's like, when we had gotten this approval, we were like, oh, okay, well shit, we actually got approved. Because I shelled out the $1,000 or the $1,400 or whatever it was to go ahead and put in the application for this 4-bedroom house. And it was like, I didn't really get my hopes up, because I was like, I know our credit's not the greatest, so hey, but I was like, sure, I of course expressed my concern to the I guess the leasing management, I guess, out there, and was like, I don't want to pay the $1,200, because it was like $1,200, and then you pay like $400 for like an application fee. I was like, I don't want to pay the $1,200 and get denied because we can't approve, or we can't afford to just be out that money. And they're like, oh no, if you get denied, you'll get they'll refund you the money. I'm like, okay, cool, all right. Well, in that case, I'll just go ahead and. So I forwarded the information or the application to my wife, forwarded it to my oldest, since everybody over 18 has to apply. My youngest and my grandson, since they're minors, we were able to just have them on there as occupants, not have to have them fill out the financials or anything. So that was cool. So we all filled out our stuff. I paid the fee. Probably about a week or so later, I got a message that at first I thought it was a complete approval. Like, you're approved, blah blah blah. Then you read a little, you open it up to read it further, and it was like you're approved with conditions. You're conditionally approved. I'm like, all right. So I open up the email. Basically, it says you're approved, and you either need a cosigner, or you need to, pay another $1,200 deposit. I said, okay, yeah. I was like, we'll pay another $1,200 deposit. Like, how do I do that? Thinking like, hey, let's pay right now. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. And right, we signed the lease, and basically we've been like, all set to move for the past like 2 months, because we were trying to plan it out. Like, well, we want to keep everybody, like the youngest and the grandson, let them finish the school year. Trying to do, basically we were trying to do the right thing, and I guess the deposit is gonna just go on the first months of rent when we get out there in June. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That works. So, but we tried to do the right thing. Not leave school early, give the other household the benefit of notice. Let them know, not just like up and leave like what my daughter did when she moved before. Which, looking back, I mean, I understand why she did it. Not mad at her for it. I mean, it was a very rough time, because she really, it was like one day, but she had somebody in her life at the time, not like a boyfriend or anything, but somebody that was just a negative influence at the time, and basically just ended up convincing her that like me and my wife were trying to control her or whatever, and that she's better to just leave and go with them. So it was tough, because we suddenly, for like a year and a half, we just didn't have any contact. But she's been back with us for probably like, but I think in October it'll be like 2 years, I think. But we were trying to, and it was one of those, when she left before, there was like one day she was there, the next day all of a sudden she was just like packing up her stuff and leaving, and we're like, what the hell's going on? Like, what? Like, why are you doing this? Like, and of course me, I went from like, went to church, went and got some groceries for the week for me to pack up like a cooler whenever I work every day. I would get like lunch meat and stuff. I think, yeah, I believe it was with the carrier, with FedEx, or the contractor, before the one I'm at right now. So every day my routine was basically, I think I brought like, I don't know, I think I did like half a pound of lunch meat every day. I would bring those, plus like, I think I did like cucumbers that I would slice up, put like 2 cucumbers sliced up in a container, and season them with like the red seasoned salt. And then so basically I would go to church on Sunday, and hit the grocery store, grab the stuff for the week, so that way I'd be able to not have to stop and eat. I would just literally bring food with me. And then I came home, and usually it's come home, hang out, whatever. And came home thinking everything was good, and all of a sudden my daughter's leaving with her grandson. It's like, so she packed up and left with this person or whatever, and it was a pretty rough time. I remember, suddenly she was gone, and wasn't answering any texts or calls or whatever. Kind of reminiscing, I guess, a little bit about it, but I know my youngest, a month or two later, she kind of told us that like she was really worried about us, because like, was worried, like she was worried out that we were gonna have a heart attack or something, because like my wife was on the couch, like head in her hands, sobbing hysterically. I had my face buried in my hands, and I was pacing back and forth, because doing the shutter sobs and stuff. Because, I mean, it was rough. Like, all of a sudden, like, oh my God, my daughter and my grandson are gone. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know how we're going to be okay. And at the time, we had, like, tons of Salix's toys and sippy cups. And, I mean, there was lots of stuff around here that was basically his. And so we moved all his stuff into the upstairs, where her bedroom was. Put the stuff in her bedroom and close the door, because we were like, yeah, we just couldn't, like. And me sitting down here on my days off, I would look over on the couch that we no longer have. It's a different couch now, but he used to do this little flop thing, where he would, whoa, and he would just, free fall, like stand up on the couch and free fall, do like a flop on his stomach or whatever. Even though he hadn't been there, I could look over there and see that happen, And I was like, so depression and all that stuff, like everything, struggle was real. And while it's funny, as far as like talking about the other grandparents, because during that year and a half, like we had no contact at all. Like we couldn't, like we weren't getting contacted by her. We weren't seeing her or Sal, or the grandkiddo. But the other grandparents were actually going up there and seeing him, and doing video calls and whatnot. And it's like, but now we're looking at trying to move to make things better for the whole family. And they, the petition is BS as well, because it's not just and I told, we kind of, talked to an attorney today, and then when we got home, I tried to message the other household, because I basically was like, because they kind of didn't say anything, like we got, like, Allie got served, and then they were still showing up and picking the grandkiddo up and then bringing it back and blah blah blah, and then putting on a smile and whatever, and we're like, so you're just gonna act like you haven't done anything? Like, that's kind of fucked up, So I went on the chat, basically was like, so I'm just gonna clear the air. I was like, just in case, Bill and Deb, if you guys don't know, you're not on the same page, but if you are, which I assume you are, but it was like, Allie got served by Sam last week. Basically the petition is worded in a way that basically it's trying to take, the grandson away from the home, the only home he's ever known for the most part, and trying to take him away from his mom, with Allie only seeing him for a month, or seeing him for 1 week in a month every, for the year. And it's like that's BS. Plus the petition's like, and Allie will pay Sam child support, or pay him child support directly, and pay him, and we'll pay his like lawyer fees and court costs. And we're like, wow, okay. And other things that are inaccurate too. A lot of fake, a lot of false stuff. Like, I've supported my son this whole time, and I've held a job this past 6 years. Like, bull crap. Like he literally lives at home with his parents. He's married and his wife doesn't even work. They live at home, and it's like, I can't believe you guys are trying to petition for custody when the only ones that are literally financially supporting you are, Sam's parents. It's like, wow, okay. So it's like, I thought, you know what, fuck it. We don't, like, at this point, might as well extend an olive branch. So I basically messaged him, like, I was like, Sam, Allie's not paying your legal fees and court costs. I was like, you're gonna have to do that on your own, but I assume your parents are doing that. So Bill and Deb, I'm gonna put this out there and say, like, we talked to an attorney today. It was like, legally, she's still allowed to move. And so, that's not going to change anything, but we will be back here for any court dates that we have to go to. But if you guys want to work this out, we can meet with a mediator and actually come up with a agreement that's agreeable to everybody, instead of what you guys propose, which is basically taking him away from his home and his mom, which isn't going to happen. So we have like a 3-inch thick stack of papers that me and my wife and my daughter printed off, that we're like, yeah, we're not getting a rollover and take this. Like, we're gonna show any and all, like, he basically tried to drag her through the mud by saying, like, talking crap up, saying stuff that wasn't true. And she's like, wow, what, really? Like, that's not even close to being true or whatever. We're like, yeah, we know. Like, making her sound like she's a bad mom when he's a shit dad. It's like, but he's to give you guys kind of an example of why, we look at him like a shit dad. Like, why? Well, I'll say me, because I'll take, I don't think he listens to this, but hey, he has never really been too much interested in him unless it's to show him off. And when I say that, I really hope that he actually maybe someday he tunes in and actually hears me say that, because and I hope it pisses him off, because hey, the truth hurts. But literally, his wife and his parents will be the ones that actually are trying to hang out with him, or with the grandkiddo. But my grandson's dad will take an interest when it's either before he got married, he would use the kid as a way to make himself look good for, like, other girlfriends he wanted to hook up with, or when my daughter had a guy friend up around her birthday, 2 weeks back or whatever, or a couple weeks back. They were hanging out, and of course they had Alex with them, and the bio dad, of course, even though normally he doesn't get out of the car when they come over to pick the grandkid up, it's his wife comes up to the door to get him. He tries to message in the chat like he's actually trying to take, he's trying to be a dad. Like, oh, we're on our way, but you don't get out of the car, so it doesn't count. You literally stay in the car because you're afraid to come up here and talk and deal with us. Because he's one of those computer bullies, big behind a computer screen. But when you talk to him face to face, he can't. He's a coward. So so in the chat, I basically tried to be like, so, I mean, if you guys want to work this out, like, I was like, Allie is open to working this out, like, to figuring out an arrangement with you, but if you guys insist on taking this to the courts, then you guys have basically declared war on us, so we're gonna, like, screw it, we're gonna go for the throat too. I was like, but this should have been a conversation between our two families, because we've been working things out over the past 6 years. It's all been kept privately. Like, we haven't gone through the court for child support or anything like that. But then all of a sudden now we're leaving, and you serve her with stuff saying that you want to take Alex away. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. Like she's not a bad mom. There's no evidence of any of the stuff you're claiming, but we have a lot of evidence about the stuff we're claiming about him. So if they were to work with us privately, then the outcome for them would probably be better. But I think going through the court, it's probably not going to be quite as good, anywhere near what they want. It's probably still going to be like 1 week in a month, that they could come out and see him. And then the funny thing is that he'll probably actually now be officially on the hook for child support, which I'm going to laugh my ass off, because, right now she gets a little bit of a payment every month from his mom. 27 years old, lives at home. I think 27, but he's up there. But lives at home with his wife and him live at his parents' house, neither of them work. I quit my job because focusing on my mental health. That's what his wife basically said, like, within the past 6 months, and we're like, must be nice, to just be able to live at home, and you claim, like, it's like, so what, that's where I'm like, so what happens when because they're up, like, his parents are up there in age. I think his mom's 70. So it's like, so what happens if something happens to your parents? Like, you guys aren't fit to actually take care of him full time, financially or mentally, So, but I attempted to put a thing in the chat before I posted it, I sent it into our family chat with me, my wife, my daughters, and my daughter's boyfriend, and basically was like, hey, so this is what I typed up to send to them as an olive branch, kind of see, you know, like if, well, one, we didn't know how invested his parents were. We figured they were kind of invested. You know, maybe they were the ones that initiated him going to file a petition initially, but I didn't know if they were fully on board with the whole "we're taking Alex away from you." It's like, no, you're not. But his mom basically came back when I did that, when I posted it, because Allie was like, yeah, that looks good. But all right, cool. His mom came back, like, thank you for checking in, Chris. The reason why we did the petition was because your move is coming up really soon, and we wanted to do what's best for Alex, and come up with a parenting plan. I was like, I understand that, but Dad, like, your petition basically is proposing taking Alex away from the only home he's ever had, and taking him away from his mom, who has been his sole caregiver for the past 6.5 years. I was like, I would have understood if it was equal between the two parents. Like, hey, I want him, like, this month, and you have next month, or 2 weeks and 2 weeks, or I'll come out and see him every weekend, and then we get him a month during the summer or something like that. I would have understood, because it would have been like, all right, that actually makes sense. But it was, well, the dad gets him full time, 256 days, and the mom only gets him 3 days a week, 3 days a month, so basically 100 days a year. And I even told them in the chat when we're about when we were talking to the attorney, that was like, I was like, Deb, the attorney saw the whole that you wanted Allie to only have him for 3 days a month, and he laughed about that, because the grandson has been in her care basically since he was born. I was like, and all of a sudden you got, because you guys don't like that we're making a change that's positive for us, you think that you're gonna just slander her, and that I was like, you guys don't have proof about any of it, so try to put the olive branch out there, but ended up not working out because basically it's like, well, like, we really want to work something out with you guys, before, like, because I know the move's coming up, so give us the information about your attorney, and we'll work something out. And I was like, Deb, like, no, like, it was just like, if you want to work something out with us, we can hire a mediator and go about it that way. But if you want to deal with the lawyers, then we're just going to take this to trial. Like, we're going to, if you want to fight us, we'll fight you. That's fine, I was like, we're not gonna just let you guys railroad us, and it was like, we have a lot of shit on your son, and so it's like, and your family in general. So I was like, if this goes to trial, where you have a lot of stuff we're gonna lay out, and the bio dad is kind of a he's definitely a coward. It's like, he talks big when it's behind a phone or a computer screen, but when you talk to him in person, he just kind of like, breaks down or whatever. And it's like, I'm not worried about it, because I know that Tennessee favors the mom usually, unless there's like a valid reason for them to favor the dad over the mom, but that ain't the case for right here. So it's like, that's why I try to I tried to emphasize about the financial, because I was like, because Allie's not paying your son's legal expenses. I know you guys are probably going to be paying that, and it's probably going to be like 10 grand on each side, so it would be better for us to work this out together without going to court. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We'll go the court route, and you guys could pay out a lot of money, and your son can still lose. And the funny thing is that going that route, my daughter could be less open to negotiating with you, because you basically try to screw her over. Be like, well, guess what? I don't want you to see him at all for a while, but so right now, court route, going to do the legal fight and stuff. So it is what it is. We're gonna keep the same schedule we've currently been doing, where we let them pick him up a couple days a week, spend a little bit of time with him, and then overnight on Friday, and then in a couple weeks, it basically be like once we leave the state and we're still waiting on a court date, it'll be like out. She'll probably just ignore him at that point. Be like, why do you see my son? Well, no, we're going to court to determine all this. And, we figure we got permission from the court to basically be like, yeah, you can still move. There's no, nothing ordering you to stay. So we're just gonna go do what we gotta do, and we'll be back for whatever dates we have to attend. And I'm like, you guys are gonna regret this. So it's like, this should have been a conversation between our two families. So since we've had a lot of working things out for 6 years, and now all of a sudden we're like, yeah, now we're like, fuck you, because you guys totally tried to take the grandkid away. For what? For so you and so the grandparents over there and the stepmom could have time with the grandson, but not. But that way the dad can just sit around and play video games like what he does. That's like, oh man. So got pretty sidetracked there, so I apologize. So let's get back to the actual official topic today. So I guess tonight's dual topic. But the official topic of, do you watch like spooky stuff late at night or whatever before you go to bed? Yay or nay? And see, I like spooky stuff. I like scary stories. I like horror flicks. Or lately, because of how Instagram is, I do enjoy. You come across a lot of those random videos that you gotta wonder if it's like real or if it's like something that's like AI that's made up. Because you see a lot of them where it's like random figures will just appear off in the distance, and it's like there'll be comments like, "Is this real? Is this AI?" And people go, "Oh no, it's fake." And I'm like, I don't know, man. Or like supposed haunted houses where they show stuff happening, like somebody, like a shadow figure peeking around a corner or something, and then they disappear, and so they go with the camera to try to track them down, and then something happens. They try to run back up the stairs, and the door slams, and it's like, I'm watching these little clips, and I'm like, chills going up my spine as I'm watching them. And of course, the funny thing is, aside from my grandson in the next room being asleep, I'm down here on the first floor alone, well, aside from the grandson and the cats, so I'm not fully alone, but down here where it's quiet and I'm the only one awake, and I'll be watching these clips and I'll be getting chills up my spine. I'm like, holy crap. It's like, wow, ooh. So sometimes I have to tell myself, all right, I gotta put something else on, because I don't want to be watching this stuff and then try to go to bed a little bit and having some good old nightmares, But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like that I think I read something too where like they were like, oh yeah, you really did like close your blinds, keep your blinds closed or your curtains closed or something. A lot of times down here where we are right now, we have because of course if we have the blinds all the way down, the cats mess with them, and so the blinds are all screwed up after a while. We've actually had the blinds up about halfway for quite a bit, I guess, so that way they can lay in the window. But after earlier, because we also have that plastic film you can put over the window to try to like help with insulating, because this apartment is not very well insulated. Like during the extreme heat or extreme cold, it definitely takes either more heat or more air conditioning to keep it comfortable inside, because it'll be either too hot, even with running the air conditioning, or too cold, even when you're running the heat. And so we put these plastic films on the window in here, window in the kitchen, and then covering technically covering the sliding glass door in the back. But it's funny. It's funny though because you know my eldest, when she put the plastic film on the sliding door, she put it on the outside because we had the inside covered with like blankets and whatnot. She's like, yeah, it would have just been harder to take all that stuff down and cover it, so I just did it out here. I'm like, that's interesting. But she's like, but it's warmer in that room, you know, even with it on the outside. I'm like, huh, all right, well, hey, as long as it works. I don't know if you guys heard that, but got the grandkiddos had the sniffles, and so every so often wakes up coughing and whatnot. You know how it is. But I noticed earlier, because there's times if like the blinds are up and I'm thinking like, if it's really dark outside, I can't see crap from inside. I'll be like, for all I know, somebody could just be standing outside the window staring at me and I wouldn't see them. But earlier, after the grandkid got home from school and you know his mama took him out back on the patio to go play, I went out there, was talking to her, and then I walked out near the window that's by the kitchen, and it has the insulating plastic film on the inside. I tried to look through the window and I was like, huh, right, that plastic film actually obscures the view, like you can't see anything in there. Like it just looks like if you're, that'd almost be the way I could describe it would be if you're trying to look through somebody else's like prescription glasses and everything is like blurred and obscured. You like literally can't see anything. That's kind of what it looks like with the plastic, you know. So I was like, oh, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. You know, maybe we'll put that on there on the windows at the new place when we get there, so that way if we have the blinds up, if somebody were to try to look in, they can't see anything, you know. They can technically see in, but the vision is like, they wouldn't be able to see details, because with that plastic there, I guess it totally obscures the vision or whatever. It's like you can see through there and you can see the gist, like, hey, it's a room that's lit up, but then you can't look through and be like, I can see a person there, or I can see a cat there. No, you can't see that. So, but, yeah, we live in an area over here where there's been times where like the whole power went out on this area. It is pitch black. Like, you can walk outside to the cars and like using the flashlight, and it'd be like, you know, shining a light in the darkness, and it just disappears because it's like a black void. It's like, oh wow. So, but yeah, there's times where I'll be watching a movie or something, or watching reels on Instagram, and of course I'm coming across a lot more now that are the scary reels, you know, that like the mysterious or scary stuff that happens. And I was like, tonight I was watching, saw a couple of those popping up, and was watching them, and I was like, yeah, I better put my phone down. I better go ahead and hop on the computer and do do this week's Real Talk Tuesday episode. You know how it is. Like, try to keep pushing forward and keep believing. So tonight was pretty interesting. Was technically off, but had to still go up to the FedEx home because my boss texted Sunday when I got off. Basically was like, there's a meeting tomorrow for the, and all the drivers are required to attend. And I'm like, I was like, but I'm off. I don't want to go up there when I'm off. I was like, how would suck. So, but I went. She's like, oh, the owner wants to meet everybody. And I'm like, oh, the owner of WSI. Oh, that's cool. I was like, are we gonna get like cool gear, like WSI, like bomber jackets, whatever? He goes, no fancy gear. I'm like, oh, it sucks. Like, not even hoodies. So went up there, and me and 4 other guys were like hanging out there for probably a good 40 minutes before my manager and a couple of the guys showed up. I guess technically the bosses. Sounds like our company that I drive for. got bought out by another company, but it sounds like things are actually getting better. Like their benefits sound like they're better. Um, they actually, I guess that I didn't know how it was going to go down as far as like us moving up near Kansas City, because my manager basically, when I approached him, instead of giving him notice, I basically was like, hey, is it possible to relocate up to another hub, like outside Kansas City, Missouri or something, and still drive for WSI? He goes, it's possible. Let me, I have some contacts up there. Let me get in touch with them, and I'll get back to you. I'm like, all right, cool. And so when talking to the new owners today, it's like they have like 150 trucks, and they have runs out of Kansas City and a bunch of other, like Texas and some other, like Georgia and some other stuff. So my boss kind of looks over at me. He was so like, this is kind of how, like, what's happening to you and what you're going through in June. Like, this is how we're like, I kind of wondered. So it's like, so I guess that won't be a big deal as far as like how I get a truck out there and stuff. So I'm like, well, that's why I'm, we're moving, and I'm technically not switching jobs. I mean, it's like I'm switching jobs, but I'm not switching jobs, because I'm not applying and going to a new company. I'm transitioning out that way, but at the same time, we are having to fill out the usual new hire stuff, like the W-2s and whatnot, for the new company, because everything's transitioning over. But things like the PTO, like vacation and whatnot, sounds like it's going to be better. Like right now, we get paid days off. It accrues hourly based on like on-duty hours. So like after a while, you have 8 hours. After another while, you have 8 hours. And then they figure you take a day off, and it's based on 8 hours. You get like $160. But with the new company, it sounds like every year you get like 5 days, and then additional years you get like an extra day on there. So each year, after a year, you get like an extra day. So it'd be six days and 7 days. And I think they're grandfathering us in based on our time with the current company or whatever. Like we're not backtracking or starting over. So maybe by the time I'm at my 3-year mark, maybe I'll have like 7 or 8 days available, So I'm like, hey, that's cool, I can live with that. But yeah, it's like moving forward and continue to just do what I gotta do. But it's funny, since it got brought up while everybody's there in the room, and I'm like, well, I guess everybody knows I'm moving. I hadn't told anybody. I think I told one of the drivers, but otherwise I hadn't really said much. But now it's like, oh, I guess everybody knows I'm leaving in a couple weeks. Leaving but not leaving. Still gonna be, here driving for this company, but I'm just not gonna be here in Nashville. So, but at the same time, they have a lot of trucks, a lot of runs. So I'm like, hey, maybe this means I'll be able to get a dedicated out of Kansas City and be able to like run the same run every day instead of this jumping around doing this run, that run. Getting done at this time, getting done at that time, and Sunday mornings getting done like noon or 1 o'clock. It's like I would kind of like to go back to what I was doing before, where I was kind of coming in at a certain time and always getting back at a certain time at 4 or 5 in the morning. Meeting up with the same team out there in Illinois, whatever. So it was not gonna lie, kind of missed that. Kind of missed, randomly chatting with them for a few minutes before, we swap loads, and then they head back up to Minnesota, and I head back to Nashville. But now, the funny thing is, like, when I look at my downloads for this podcast, it just shows you have this many from USA, this many from this other country. Like I know I always have one from Germany, so I should, shout out to you, whoever you are. Appreciate you, And then lately, it's like I get like 5 to 10 from the United States, and every so often I get a UK. And I think there's a few weeks I had some from Australia. It's weird, It's like I get a couple weeks where I have like a lot of downloads from like a bunch of other countries, and like then I'll have a couple weeks where it's like 10 from the US and 1 from Germany and 1 from Russia, and it's like I don't know. So, but I know someday it'll pick up. Like I know when I get the Storytime Friday short story volumes published and selling those, I'm sure the actual listener count will increase, because those books will be also advertising the podcast. So we'll get people that'll buy the books after listening to the podcast, and we'll get people that'll become listeners because they'll buy the books, and then they'll see the link in at the end of the book on how to see the podcast online. So always a work in progress, but anyway, on that note, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up. But I hope you guys are doing well. Keep pushing forward, keep believing. Believe you can, believe you will. And you're already halfway there. And then you just have to go out there and do it. When it comes to people coming after you, as far like especially legally or whatever, and try to go for the throat. It's like, if you have any dirt on whoever's coming after you, then fight back. Because I think some people, especially like with this other family, I think they're pretty big on trying to throw their weight. They're the ones that kind of inspired the episode about throwing your weight around, because what they like to do a lot is they like to throw the weight around and then see, basically in hope that we're probably not gonna contest it, that we're not gonna fight them. And most of the time we might just say screw it and we just deal with it. But when it comes to like this petition, it's like, really, you're gonna take the grandson fully away, and you think that's what's best for him? Like he would literally be there all the time and be missing us, missing mom, missing his, Nana and Papa, missing his auntie, all because the other grandparents, had, the sperm donor dad, file a petition, even though it wouldn't be him taking care of the kiddo, it would be his parents. It's like, come on, guys, you can't be this dumb. Especially if it's something that you want to work out with the other family, but then you're trying to, instead of talking to them, you're basically just trying to screw them. And then, we would love to work something out with you, like give us your attorney's information. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, you want to go through the attorneys, and we're going to go through the attorneys, and we're going to take this to court, we're going to go to trial with this. And we're gonna expose everything we have on your son, everything we have on your family, because some of his exes actually had some horror stories about, like, when we lived there, this happened, and they were doing this, and they were doing this while he was in the house, and like they walked around in their underwear or whatever. And it's like, so we have stuff, and like we're not worried about it, So, but, and then of course with the scary stories or scary movies or scary clips before bed and stuff, sometimes it can't help it. It's like I watched a pretty good flick tonight, actually, or finished it, because I started it last night, but I finished it tonight. It's called Drive Angry, it's got Nicolas Cage in it. I'd never heard about it, but I came across a clip on Instagram, and I was like, what movie is that? And I found it, and then I found it on one of our platforms connected to our Roku, and I went ahead and watched it, and it was like, it's pretty good, so you guys check that out. But anybody who wants to grow their crypto, their Bitcoin passively without having to recruit anybody, and just compound it, let it, as it grows, get another share, then it'll grow faster, get another share, grow faster, and eventually have a full unit. and be averaging about between 10 and $30 a day, and then you just continue to work it up from there. But if anybody wants to check that out, go to passivebitcoin247.com. But aside from that, I hope you guys are doing well, and I'm hoping that I can carve out time throughout the week to go ahead and get the Storytime Friday story recorded without having to do what I did last week, where it's basically like get home Friday and I was like, wow, I gotta get it recorded. So it took me a while to get it recorded. Then I got like 3 or 4 hours of sleep before going to work, and I was like hyping up on sugar and caffeine because I was like, all right, I gotta get through the night. But I'm surprised that I've actually made it this long tonight, because earlier, before my wife went to bed, I was sitting down here after going in for that mandatory meeting. I called my daughter on the way home. I was like, hey, so we need hugs and some other stuff for the house, right? She was, yeah. I was like, do you want me to pick you up so we can hit Walmart or whatever? And she was, yeah, that's fine. So we hit Walmart, got a few grocery items and some other items that we needed to get. And before I headed home, it was like went over to one of these burger places called Wayback and called the wife and was like, what do you want from Wayback? And it was like, all right, call Allie down and let her ask her what she wants. So we got food before we came home, and then sitting down here watching, because my wife likes to just put random YouTube videos on or whatever. She'll be watching random clips, and I'm like, can we just put a movie on? Because this is kind of weird. But sitting down here with her, and I noticed that I was dozing off quite a bit, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna stay up too late. Of course, it's 3:15 at this point. I'm like, yeah, crap, stayed up later than I thought. But once I get this recorded, just gotta get it edited and scheduled to upload. Then basically grab my laundry, take my computer and microphone back upstairs, and basically just crash and go to bed. But so yeah, all good. But anyway, y'all, it's funny looking back when we gave them 60 days notice, and now we're looking back, and I joked with my daughter, I'm like, you know what, we could have totally just sprung it on them, like, hey, we're leaving in 2 weeks. But we didn't. We gave them notice, and they pulled the petition for custody or whatever. It's like, all right, so next time, if there's a next time, then we're not going to do that again. Because you try to give somebody notice, and then they can work with you, and instead they try to take it to court over it. It's like, all right, you guys want to go this route, then we'll fight you. I guess they'll hopefully they regret it when they have to spend $10,000 total for the trial and everything else. It's like, hey, I tried to put an olive branch out there to see if you guys wanted to talk about this like adults. Of course, the biodad or sperm donor didn't say shit. It's just the mom, the grandma tried to, well, Chris, this is what we're thinking, and give me your attorney's information. I'm like, no, Deb, if you want to work it out with us, we're doing this outside of court. But if you want to use the lawyers, that's fine. This is just going to go to trial, because Allie's not going to just roll over and take it, and she's not going to pay your son's child support, because she's not giving up Salix, and she's not paying his legal fees and court costs. You guys are going to be responsible for that. So if you want to fight this, we'll fight it, and it's probably not going to work out too much in your favor. So, and then you only have yourself to blame, because we try to be like, hey, what do you here's the deal. Well, we did this because we want what's best for Salix. Yeah, what's best for Salix is not to be over there with you guys. You guys are a toxic household. So, oh well. But hey, can't say we didn't try. We put the offer out there. Who knows, maybe they'll still come back eventually and be like, actually, can we talk? We want to work this out. Hell, tonight before starting this recording, I even thought, I wonder if we should draft up our own petition for their attorney, and basically have it be worded more like what we would have it. You guys can come up there, any weekend that you want, as long as you you talk to Allie ahead of time so that she's aware. And then during the summer, you can have them either for a full month or 1 week or 10 days each month. But you guys have to come up But you guys would have to come, well, I guess we could come down here. And you guys come up and get him, or we could come down here, but you have to work it out with them or whatever. So I thought about putting that drafting up something like that and sending it to their attorney to kind of as a, hey, this is a settlement offer. We're making this, offer to you. Do you want to, would you be willing to consider this, or you want to still just go to court? Because it's like, it's going to come down to, my daughter's still going to have custody of the grandson, and he's still going to live with us, and they're still going to not see him that much. Probably less if we go to trial. We'll be like, well, you get him, you come up, see him 1 week in a month, and that's it, But if you work with us, we might be willing to bend more a little bit so that you guys feel like you're getting him a little bit too. Yeah, you know how it is. It is what it is, but it's all good. So, but on that note, I think I'll go ahead and call that it for this week. But keep pushing forward, keep believing. Have a great rest of your week, and let your friends know, follow, tell your friends. That way this podcast can continue growing. And be sure to tune in on Friday for the next episode of Storytime Friday, which are, if you're new to this podcast, are actually stories that are written, produced, and performed, i.e. read by me, your host, Chris Blodgett. And so, definitely a challenge to get those, make sure to get those out every week. But I'm trying to be consistent and not slack off and be like, I'm just not gonna do one this week, because then I really put it off, and the next week I'm still lazy. And I don't really feel like it again. I'm trying not to let that get the better of me, so I'm trying to actually stay on top of it every week. So make sure to tune in a couple days when we do that. And whenever I get, start getting books published, I'll have some volumes for you where people can actually buy a physical copy of the Storytime Friday stories that are going to be in volumes. So volume 1 will have 4 or 5 or whatever stories. Volume 2, same thing, And then volume 3, and every time I have a new one, just get a new one published. So once I get the website back up, I'll have another, have a way for you guys to support if you want to, but otherwise, mainly just support through word of mouth or telling people if you like the podcast, hey, you should check this out. I really appreciate it. So anyway, gonna quit rambling and let you guys go, but I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys on Friday for the next round of Storytime Friday. You guys have a good one.